Hi, Rosemary.
Hi, Carmela. It's so good to see you.
Yes, it is. If you would pick one herb to make your dreams come true, what herb would that be?
Ooh, only one? Oh, I don't know that I can do that. Um, but so I'm going to do a combination. I would say Damiana and Rose. I would put those two together. If I had to just pick one by itself, I would probably do maybe Blue Lotus.
Blue lotus.
Yes,
Wow.
I would do Blue
Hmm.
Lotus. Yes, because it's such a magical herb and it's about liminal dreams, living between the dream worlds. But so that's three I know, but those would all be very powerful and potent for helping to manifest dreams.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Which
And
which herb would you pick?
I was thinking about it, and I think I would pick reishi mushroom.
Ah,
Yes, that
yeah,
suits me well, like calming my system down, but not too much, and then opening up something new.
that's beautiful. The herb. So you chose a really grounding herb, and I chose these really airy, liminal dream kind of herbs. That's so interesting. Yes.
Yes, yes, it is. It's knowing, trying to know yourself, what suits you.
Yeah,
Mm,
beautiful.
yes. So, Rosemary, that's why I have chosen to talk with you today. The topic is magical business. And it's something that I've been longing to talk with you about for a very long time. And the reason is that you are not only a very skilled herbalist, you are maybe the most renowned herbalists of our time now.
I don't know about that.
And then you have another skill, and that's that you are very caring and empathetic. And I understood that after a while. And that's maybe what makes you so important for many of us. And then I think that the third thing that makes you special is also that you have created all these great businesses, networks, activities, women conferences.
I was
And
busy, wasn't I?
you've been busy and you've been doing this during maybe 60 years of time, maybe even more.
About 55, I think. I started really in with my work in the herbal world when I was around 1972. And so I can't do the math quickly in my head, but I think it's like 55 or so plus years. A long time, yes.
Yeah.
More than half my life. Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe you often talk about your herbal skills and also your way of like looking upon healing and how to like your life philosophy, I would say. But maybe you don't talk so much about this creative force, about doing business, entrepreneurship. And I believe that there is something like that you combine everything, your herbal skills, your empathetic way, and then you put your energy into it and just make it come true. That's what I think.
I think you say it much better than I. Yeah. You're right. I don't separate them. Like when I don't see business as separate from my life with the plants. It's not like I start a business. I just do what the plants want me to do, right? So
Mm.
it's an outgrowth of my love of plants and my love of people. I would say both of those things have been driving forces for me. And also always being in the dream worlds,
Mm.
dreaming and visioning and, you
Yeah.
know, yeah.
Mm. And we are not on the same continent even now. Yeah, but it doesn't feel so far away. What do you say?
No, we're close,
Yeah.
connected.
Yeah. And I'm also even more relaxed than what I would have been if we wouldn't have met in Sweden quite recently, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
We had the most beautiful reunion with Swedish herbalists where you came and visited us and helped us create this base, this platform.
I had the best time. I have been talking about it ever since. It was one of the best trips. And in part it was the beauty of Sweden. Yes, it's a beautiful country. And I was shown, the most beautiful parts of it, the wilderness and the islands, etc. But also much the people and the herbalists there are so yeah, they're just so imbued with the love of plants and community, really wanting to build their community. And it was just lovely to be a part of it. I'm so grateful. Thank you for that. It was a wonderful experience for me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was important for us all. And I think that we in Sweden, we can do something like you have done since the 70s, like reviving the herbalism and bringing old knowledge back into life again.
Oh, you already planted the seeds. I mean, they're growing, they're blossoming. It's like the enthusiasm and first of all, the knowledge. I want to start with that. It's not like the herbalists are starting from ground one. They already have been in practice and they're so knowledgeable. And it was just really coming together to support one another, right? And to learn and grow together and create community because that's really what makes things blossom. Nothing
Mm,
blossoms by itself. Everything blossoms together. So
mm,
much you can't have a garden with a single idea, right? Or a
mm,
single person or a single seed. You need many seeds together to make that beautiful garden. And that's already happening. So yeah, it'll be exciting to watch it just continue to sprout and grow.
true, true.
Yeah.
And if to start off with a magical business, you already said something, but what would you tell us something? What of your creations was most fun to create?
Oh, most fun. Well, I would say the herb store that I started in 1972 and worked at for 18 years, and it's still there. Another a friend of mine runs it in the little hometown that I grew up in California. That was fun because it was my first,
Mm,
but the herb school perhaps was even funner because it had such, it was so much about education and it really had long-term implications. I think I started that in 1978 and it's still running. It's the oldest running herb school in the United States. But then I would have to say that the herb conferences were unbelievably fun because they impacted so many people. It's really what helped herbalism spread really fast in the United States, where we went from the 1970s where it was very deeply underground. Nobody was really there. I shouldn't say nobody, that's not true at all. We had indigenous populations and ethnic populations that still used herbalism, but it was pretty much underground and completely illegal here in this country to practice. And we've made it major mainstream, and a lot of that was through the conferences. But, so I have to say, in every one of them, that fun was a huge part of it, or I wouldn't have done it. The plant lovers journeys were probably the things I loved the most because I got to travel around the world with other herbalists, going and meeting indigenous healers. But I would say the thing that I found it the most, which was not a business, actually, it was a more of a mission and calling that I would say, I'm not sure I would say it was the most fun thing that I created, but definitely the thing that I'm the most proud of, actually, is United Plant Savers, which was an organization that I helped to found with a group of herbalists in the 1994 that was it's solely about the plants themselves and how they're doing in their native habitats. So United Plant Savers created a model, a different model for practice in this country, and actually has created a model for people in other countries to create, a watchdog organization for their native medicinal plants. So I know that's a longer answer, but I have to say they've all been so much. It's really been fun to create these businesses, I guess they are entities, I'd like to call them, that have gone out into the world and been so successful.
mm. Thank you, thank you. And I just wanted to add something with United Plant Savers that as I recall, you and your herbalist friends started to see that there many plants were threatened in their habitat, right?
Yeah, it would, as we watched herbalism grow and our small companies become large companies, and really without a lot of awareness of where these plants were coming from, we began to recognize that we were making herbalism really popular, which was great. It was becoming an option for people again to use, but we were really engendering another major issue, which is where are these plants coming from? And a lot of them at that time in the 1970s and 80s and 90s were coming from the wilds. And, as you know, Carmela, that's not a problem for our weedy species so much like dandelion or burdock. But for native species, it's an enormous problem. When there's more than a small group of people using a native species, you have to be mindful. And that's a really good takeaway for people in other countries as they're watching herbalism, reground and become popular again, is where are these plants coming from? And if they're
Yeah,
coming from the woodlands, and the native habitats, there's reason to be concerned.
yeah, yeah. And maybe choose other sources, like see how we can grow them ecologically and find other ways to protect them.
Oh, absolutely. Like, we always say support your other endangered farmer, other endangered species, the farmer, right? Support
Yeah,
the farmers who are growing these plants and also use analogs. Like there's always other plants like yes, in our country, maybe we can't use wild crafted golden seal, but we can use Oregon grapefruit or berberine, um, from some invasive species that have high amounts of berberine and hydrastina in them. So yeah, there's always analogs or options for not
mm,
using at-risk or endangered species. Yeah,
true, true. And I also think, like for us in Sweden, for example, now that we are creating our herbal platform network, we also need to take all your knowledge in this sense also, and be mindful because we have also a shortage of. We need to be mindful, like for example, our native plants up in the north of Sweden,
yeah.
like rhodiola root. How, yeah,
Yeah, definitely. And we always say that there's this bioregional blindness where you might have a lot growing in your region, but if it only grows in a small area, not growing everywhere, then and you have three or four small companies that are depending on that, always taking, even when we're replanting, if we're not replanting enough to reestablish those colonies, after 5 or 10 years, you start to notice that there's a diminishing supply. So I think really honestly, I think our greatest responsibility as herbalists is not only about self-care and helping our communities, it's really about caring for the earth. That's number one. It's
yeah.
making sure those plants are there for, yes, future generations of plant lovers, but much more importantly for the earth itself. I think that really is the ringing truth for herbalists these days. At least it's my truth.
Yeah, definitely, definitely so. And in the beginning, you said that you don't separate like your love for plants and then the businesses or networks that you have created. And I would say like that is creating business with your heart. Would you say something something more about that?
Yeah, yeah, well, for myself personally, I've never really gone out and thought about I'm starting a business. It was more like I was obviously, and I could have reframed it in my mind that way, but it wasn't really the way I was thinking. It was really like there was a need. So if I go back to when I started my herb store, it wasn't like, oh, I'm going to start a store and, you know, um, and I wasn't thinking it as a business. I was thinking of it really as a service, that there was no place for people to get plants in Northern California. And I wanted to just start a home apothecary in my basement so people could come and get the plants they needed. But I lived up on the top of a mountain and people couldn't drive. So I just rented a little place inside a natural food store. And so of course it was a business, but it was really just a service of something that was really needed. And then it was the same like with the herb school when I started that. There wasn't a place where people could go and learn about the plants to use the plants. So I thought, well, I'll just start inviting people to come and teach. I knew nothing about starting the school. I had no idea how to start a school, but I just did. And then it grew. Of course, I had to manage it as a business and I had to manage the store as a business in order for them to thrive. But the basis of it was just providing services for people, and maybe that's where it ties into the heart is that, it was really from this place of wanting to serve my community. It was really just with each thing, like with the conferences, I started with the conferences before I started the school because I had these weekend events and then people were saying, but we want to learn more. So I thought, oh, I'll start a school. And then we'll have 9-month programs and people can come and live in the community and camp at Emerald Valley. And they still do that. People still camp in Emerald Valley and go to the class. That was the name of the school that was the name of the farm that I rented. So, yeah, I think that there's a lot more joy and happiness and that magic concept that you bring up so often when we look at, yes, doing business, because in order for these things to thrive, we have to think in a business-like way. But coming from a place of service, from the heart, that you want to make something that's really a gift to your community, a gift to the earth. Um, and that brings that heartfulness in, that makes it so fun, and gives us that feeling that we're creating something of value. That gives us a sense of self-worth. If my business was just successful and I was selling a lot of something that I didn't really believe in with all my heart, I would not feel successful at all. I mean, like, you feel successful because you feel like you're offering something to the world that's of value, not financial value, but of, yeah, heartfelt, soulful value. The world is a better place because of what you're offering to it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So,
But putting it the other way around, like I think like many people would love to do something more with their time and see that they really like give value to the world. But then many of us are not having that courageousness or that strength, or maybe we are. And maybe what I want to ask you is like when you were like so young, 55 years ago, you also had small children.
yeah,
Yeah, you had to support them.
yes,
Yeah,
yeah,
and I mean, like somewhere you also needed to make a choice. Like it's like also a bit like accepting insecurity, maybe.
yeah. Well, so yeah, that's a really good question. And because it's not always that you're going to be successful with everything you put out in the world, right? It's not always, there is a certain business aspect you have to have, a way of directing it and making it. So one of the things that helped me was I always felt like I was working from a place of vision. And it wasn't like big visions. It was like, I want to serve my community, so I'm going to make a little home apothecary and have plants and people can come and get them. It was a very small vision. And it grew big enough that 50 years later, or 55 years later, it's still there and still serving a community, a large community of people. And the same with the conferences. It wasn't like when I started, it was like I envisioned these conferences all across the United States, and we had hundreds of people that came, and 40 speakers. It was, I had 4 speakers, and it was a weekend at a farm, and we camped. It was very small. It's always been the way I've done everything. I've never started anything, even traditional medicinals, which is the largest medicinal tea company in the United States. It started as teas in my store. I made teas for my community, and then they were popular, and I put them in little brown paper bags, and then they went. I had a good partner who was a good businessman. It just grew over 50 years. I think they just celebrated their 50th anniversary this year. So I'm coming back to what your question is. So I always started everything small, and I started from a place where there was a need in my community. It was almost like a vision. I had small visions that would say, you need to make this service for your community. So like in your case, like you're creating these beautiful products as a gift to your community. Of course, you have to charge for them, but you're doing it because you want to make good medicine to offer to people. And so it's the same thing that drove me. I had this desire to want to serve my community, serve the plants, and there was a vision that was in me that to do that. And it wasn't like a vision from God that came in a great, rainbow ways. It was more like a very earthy kind of thing that I wanted to offer out. And because I never really had money, a lot of money, I never started off with big projects. I just started with the little bit that I had. And so everything was always started very small and grew naturally. Never started big and grew down. It always started very small and grew really big. And then when it got really big, it was like I didn't really have the skills to handle it anymore, nor did I want to. So that was another one of my great skills, is finding really competent, visionary people who could take these dreams and really manifest them in a big way in the world. So I was a seed planter, really, I would say.
Hmm. Yeah.
And that part about, I mean, I am probably as insecure as anybody, but when I would feel that the plants were moving through me, or that visionary place that you get, I would just say yes to it. And that's one of the things I always taught my students is, when you get something like that, just move yourself aside, your little insecure self, you put them over there and say, okay, you could be insecure over here, but you're being called to do this. So just say yes and step up and do it, and be willing to work your butt off, because when you create these things, unless you come into it with a lot of money, you can hire people to do the job for you, which most herbalists can't do that. You also have to work harder than you've ever worked in your life. So It's like it's not like I just sit around and do nothing. I even now at 77, I am working really, really hard to manifest whatever dream is coming through me that I'm saying yes to the world.
Mhm.
Yes, I'll do this. All right. But now what I usually try to do when I get those visions is say to the plants, no, you give that to somebody else. I'm getting old. I don't want to do that anymore. I'm trying to be a little bit more discriminating and not say yes all the time. But I just said yes and jumped in and did it.
Yeah.
And then worked really, really hard. There's a lot of sacrifices that you have to be willing to do as well, like if, to drive these things to be really successful.
Yeah. So you have mentioned some things like to keep it small in the start small and have a sustainable thought that you should be able to maintain it. Like that also gives a little bit of calmness and then it can grow like in time.
That's always been the way I've done it. I've let them self-grow, like
Mm.
um just naturally. I haven't really done a lot of pushing to make them. So like, example might be the conferences. I started them really small, and then within a few years they were really large. And then I just would go 800 people is more than enough, at the women's conference. I don't want to grow any bigger than that. Or 25 people in a class. It's whatever it is that you go, this is, and budget wise, you figure that out in your budgeting. But for myself personally, I always started off really small. I have friends who have done it differently. They go into the business, they want it to be really big, and they have an investment and they jump right in and make it happen that way. But that would make me very nervous. I like to just
Mm.
start really small and kind of control everything, like do everything, do all
Yeah.
the work, and then hire somebody when I can who's
Mm.
helping me, and then just let it grow organically. That's been a really, I think, one of the secrets of my success is just doing it the way that I feel most comfortable doing. I would never
Mm.
feel comfortable if somebody said, here's a lot of money, go start a really huge business. It's like, I don't want to do it that way.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Then you work for them also. You need to like show someone else.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And I'm thinking, like, I've been thinking a lot about now that I hear you talk, I'm thinking like in many, many ways. But one thing is about money, of course. Like now you said, like you started off your businesses with very little money.
I have very little money.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. Don't you think that there is a magical aspect to money that we sometimes think that we need like something that, or there is a, like a view that there is never enough. And I think like it's more a matter of how you look upon it.
I think, well, yeah, I mean, money is an amazing tool, like the more you have of it, the more you can help and give out and, grow your dreams and go on vacations and, everything, right? But it also is nothing. It's, when you really look at it, if you're looking at paper money, it's just a piece of paper. It means nothing. Or a card, a plastic card. The only thing that gives it value is the way we think about it. And that's not true of a lot of things. Like if you get a good cup of tea, that tea has value, or a garden, or, so many things. But money is just bizarre. It's strict. You said this, it's just the way we think about it.
Mm.
And so it really is that concept of what is enough, and again, it's the way that we're thinking. And here I'm not, of course, enough means that people have food to eat and a shelter over. There's a lot of people who don't even have that enough. But in business, it's not the amount. Like if people value the success of their business on how much money they're intaking, it's again, it's not really it's a weird self-worth because it's not worth anything. It's really, it's you want enough to pay the bills, but really what is of value in your business and in your life is your joy, your happiness, the magic, your excitement about waking up every day, going to work. That's the value. And that has to be factored in when you look at success. So money, yes, is a tool, and there's something very magical about it, but we have to be in control of it, not it in control of us. And so many people are they look at the success of their business as how quickly it's grown, how much money it's making. If that money is of value, if it's making them really happy, if they have more joy, if they are really sparkling, if inside they're happy, they have good relationships. But if all it's doing is creating stress, there's no value there. You
Mm.
know,
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm making sense. Am I
Yeah.
answering your?
Yes, definitely. I think it's uh, and I think like it's really saying that we don't have enough money is maybe more a matter of being saying instead like I'm afraid of trying this, I'm afraid of
Oh,
doing that. Yeah.
oh, I see. Yeah. Well, I mean, basically, I'll go back. I mean, it's been a long time ago. I was very young. When I started my herb store, I think I might have borrowed like $200 to start, get some jars and some herbs. Of course, it was a very different, everything is so much more now, but back then that seemed like forever, a lot. So yeah, I've never really started any of the businesses very much. Just like I look at what I have, or like I would just work and work and work and save up enough to, buy the next herb jar, or really the next herbs. Starting the events like those conferences, um, they grew really big. And of course, I had to have a lot of money at the end to even, sign the contract with the colleges that I used to rent. It was like kind of scary how much money it would cost to rent those things. But in the beginning, it was like, you know, I had enough to rent a farm, so I rented a farm and paid the teachers very little, but they were happy to be there. I mean, it probably cost me two or three hundred dollars to put that event on, and then if I made two or three hundred dollars, I was like so excited. So yeah, I don't. I think putting that magical energy that you talk about so much, Carmela, into your idea of money as well. Like it's another thing that it's how we think a lot about this. And like letting our fears stand in our way. Fear is an interesting thing because it's the strongest way you control other people and also the strongest way that you're controlled. So the more we just say no to our fears, as I said, it's not like I'm not fearful or scared. Like public teaching, I'm frightened of public teaching even after all these years. But I always just say, okay, you stand over there. I'm being called to do this. Somebody said to do this. I'm going to stand up and assume I have something important to say. And that's kind of how I think I do my businesses too. Like is that answering that at all? I don't know.
Yes,
I
yes.
don't know that I can answer it. I don't have an answer for that
No,
question.
no, I'm not expecting any answers either, just like how you have been thinking about it. And you talk a lot about putting things on the side, or like putting things in a box and then putting it away for a while. And that's a good point.
Well, because it's not like I'm not scared or fearful or, like an example would be like when the first time I hosted the International Herb Symposium, which was a very, very popular gathering that brought herbalists from all around the world. I had to sign a contract with the college for the weekend. It cost $100,000 to rent that for just the weekend, right? I mean, I didn't have that kind of money, but I just said, it's going to be successful. I'm going to make it work. I'm going to work my butt off to make it work. And I did sign that contract, and it was incredibly successful. I'm not telling your listeners to do that. I'm just saying what I did is I just really listened, and I felt like I could make this happen. I could budget this. I've been doing these conferences, smaller conferences for 30 years. So it wasn't like it was not familiar to me. And so I just felt my little shaky self, like, oh my God, am I really going to sign this contract? And I just sort of, yeah, you're right. I just say, okay, you're okay over there. You can be over there and shake, but I'm going to do this. And then I just move forward with it. I think a lot of it is just learning to say yes to life.
Mm.
Um, and you're not always going to be successful. That's just normal.
Yeah.
Fall on your face. But so long as you know how to pick yourself back up and get going, it's fine.
True, true, true.
Yeah.
And another topic that you mentioned is that you need to be prepared to work hard.
Oh,
And then I must now like tell our listeners about you when you were at the conference in Sweden. I think you had like more energy than any of us. You were like up the earliest, and then you went to bed the latest, and over again. And we were like, wow, wonder what herb Rosemary using. But that's so my question is like, haven't you like been exhausted in your life?
oh, I think I'm exhausted all the time. But life is, I don't want to miss out on anything. And yeah, when I'm having a lot of fun, which I am almost always when I'm in nature or with people who love plants. And yeah, so then I just get energy. I open up and just let that energy pour through me. Um, So yeah, and a lot of that is, some of it is just genetics. My mom was also like this. If you met my mom, I mean, she lived to 97 and she was like a little energy bunny. So some of it is just constitutionally who we are.
Yeah.
I have a lot of pitta in me, so that keeps me like, fiery and energy. But some of it is also the herbs. I do try to take really good care of myself. I'm aging well. As I said, I'm in my late 70s now, and I still feel really vital and strong inside. And it's not that I don't get tired. What really tires me out are the tedious tasks behind all the fun stuff. Like, when you have to write books, it's great when the book is out, but the hours of sitting there typing, or, all the organizing that goes into those events, that can be quite exhausting. So just having good habits is important, making sure that you take time to have fun. I was mentioned yesterday, I went out and spent the whole day with one of my herbal girlfriends, and we just had so much fun going to a local herb shop and like seeing what they had and getting massages, so you really have to put that element of joy and to sustain, when you are working hard. That's something when I used to teach a class that was on training herbal teachers, right? How to be successful in business in your work. It wasn't just for teachers, but that was one thing I would have the students do is bring a calendar and then just mark in there your time for yourself. Because if you don't put it in there, if you don't put it in as part of your calendar, you're not going to get it. And I learned that the hard way. I have to say that that was not an easy lesson for me because I was obsessed with what I was doing. I loved it so much. It was fun, but I wasn't really taking care of my own self, like just things outside the herbal world, or there's a whole world outside of just plants and plant people.
Is
And my
it?
family, I went through a few relationships before because if you don't give something energy, it's not going to last, right? So I
Yeah.
learned those lessons a little bit hard. Yeah.
Okay. Of course. Yeah. Wherever you direct the energy.
Yeah, wherever you put your energy, that's what you're feeding. So make sure you feed yourself in the process.
Yeah.
Don't wait till you're really old to realize that way, especially when you're young and you have a lot of energy for what you're doing. Remember that you can always take time off. If you don't, then you're going to get really exhausted and worn out. So
Mm.
yeah.
I had a very fun experience with my little business, Örtfabriken. In the beginning, I was like, oh, I was shocked at all the obstacles and problems. Like it seemed like it was constantly some new things coming up from the blue. You had no idea about it. And then you needed to solve it. And then I remember, like, at one point, I was so tired of it. Like, I can't do it anymore. It's like too difficult. And then I just went to lay down on the sofa like 30 minutes. And then afterwards, of course, you go up and then you're like, wow, I have the solution. Yeah, so it seems so simple, but for me, it's like the like knowing when to push, knowing when to like go backwards, knowing when to lay down and just take a nap instead.
Yeah, it's true. It's a life process and you learn those lessons as you go. But the key is to remember the lesson. Like right there is a really good thing is remembering that you do need to take time, resting, going out in nature. And that is one thing is I would say that developing habits. I was lucky because I lived in the wilderness, right? When I was doing all these businesses. So I had nature as my teacher always. So I had, that was where I always went to connect and get my source and my clarity. And so and it can be just a nap, it could be going to the ocean, but to know, to remember that that's so important, and also to work that actually into your calendar, into your week. Like, what am I doing this week that's self-nourishing, doesn't have anything necessary to do with my business, but it will feed into my business, into my vision, because I'm more restored for who I am. And I think really that has been one of the keys for me, is that I drew so much energy from my work, right? Because I was always working with plants and with people who love plants. So so even when it was challenging, I would just tap into it, and it was just like such a source, like a river of energy that would run through me that was self-nourishing. And that's what I think we have to find is what is that source for us. So for some people it's meditation or yoga, um, which wouldn't really work for me because I can't still but walking in nature always connects me. Hugging a tree, laying down on the earth, so people need to find that. I have a really good friend, Beth Ebbings, who runs, she has a little herb store down in Texas, a very, very successful small herb store with no vision of getting it bigger. She's really happy with it, but she works in it almost all the time. But every year she goes on her birthday for a week to this sacred ocean place, right? And she just feeds, she does other things through the year, but she always knows that she can go for that week and just she does ceremonies and she walks on the beach. And so she works right into her calendar, this completely self-nourishment.
Mm.
So I think that's so important. It also is where we get our visions. Our visions mostly come when we're, like you were saying, you're laying there on the couch and you get up and it's like, you know, just what to do, right? Just in that
Mm.
half hour
Yeah.
restoration.
Yeah, taking a step off somehow. Yeah. But you mentioned something important that I got like really nice sensations when you talked about your friend and she's doing this ritual every year. It
Yeah.
sounds fantastic to have that. Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And and what and you mentioned like the thing that you do that you take energy from are those like connection with nature. And
Yeah.
actually that's what I've been feeling as well in my life. Like what's the opposite of exhaustion, being exhausted is being in connection with nature and like having that coming to you. That's definitely, yeah, the answer.
Yeah, and I'm fortunate in my life because my husband, he's a wilderness person too. So like, and he almost every year we go for at least a week or two far up in northern Maine. So it'd be northern Sweden, you know, where it's very
Mhm.
wilderness. I think it's in northern Sweden, right, where you have all that wilderness area.
True.
And there's like, we go to this little log cabin and it's like 13 miles from the nearest anything road, even. It's like there's a little dirt road that goes and there's nothing, there's no stores or people. And we just camp like that, you know, we go out mushrooming and gathering herbs and it's just so restorative and it's important for people who are listening is that for most of us who are herbalists, nature is the restoration. It's like our temple and our spiritual path, but it could be anything, you know, for people that just they just know it replenishes them. You know, it's not it helps them connect with their source of power and energy. And yeah, and as you do that more, as you find those connective places more and more, it becomes so much easier to channel into them. So like even like in the middle of a busy conference, if I'm just feeling all scattered or a busy day, I just go outside, you know, and find a tree. And then because I've been in that practice for most of my life, it's just a really easy, it's like a straw. I become like a straw, just absorbing that energy, feeling it come up through me. And yeah, it's
Mm.
it's divine, actually. I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
that's
it is.
really a good thing to, and then you get to bring that energy back into whatever service you're offering back to the world, right?
Yeah.
Like, you
Mm.
know, when you talk about energetics, and how we're just energy. So, you know, when we're all frazzled and, you know, just had enough, that's what's coming out of it. But when we center ourselves and then we allow that to flow out through us, that's part of the magic too that we make when we're doing our magical business.
Yeah. Thank you, Rosemary. I feel so hopeful when I'm listening to you, really. And
Oh,
now, as our talk is coming to the end, I will try to like summarize a little bit what I'm like taking from you from what like sometimes you say like when I mention magical business, you're like, oh, you know this more than me. But I'm like trying to catch something there, and I think it is like this bringing your skills and your knowledge, your energy, and then putting your heart into it. And if you do that, then you create some kind of magic.
you do. You have the cauldron.
Yeah. And you know when you are doing it because then you feel like replenished and you feel like filled with energy instead of being exhausted. Right.
Yeah, that's so true, Carmela. And then also, I think it's important to realize that we're not always there, you know, and to recognize when we're not and to have complete support and love for ourselves when we're not. Just
Yeah.
like, you know, we're talking about being uncertain or fearful or, you know, or those times when I'm just really scared to get up and talk in front of the public, like, what am I going to have to say? And just to have a lot of love for that person, but not to let it ever stop you necessarily. You know, if it's coming from a place of wisdom, like they're, you know, like you're heading in a direction and your inner guides, your voices are saying, no, that's not good, to listen to that. But when it's coming from a place of fear, you just acknowledge it and love it, love that part of ourselves that's timid and not quite so bold, but not to let it hold us back. It's like, thank you for that nice little shiver that you're giving me, but I don't think I'm going to let you stop me now. So, but I think we need to have compassion that we're not always in that place of power,
Oh, of course,
understanding.
of
Yeah.
course. Yeah.
And we don't always make the right decisions. Sometimes we start down a path and go, oh, that's not so good, come back. So,
Mm,
yeah,
true.
that's part of the magic too.
Yeah. And maybe also if we would think a little bit more about being of service, how our like activities, ideas, dreams could be of benefit for all of us or for Earth or for whatever, that would maybe also fulfill us more.
Oh, I think it's vital. I mean, I think that's one of the things that's lacking right now in people is not feeling of service, not feeling of value, like they're either giving something of value or making something of value. And in our herbal work, it's critical, to have that feeling. In fact, Robin, I would really suggest that anybody who's thinking about going into business, into herbal business, would read Robin Wall Kimmer's little small book that came out this year called Serviceberry. And she
Mm.
makes this because it's all about heartful business, right? And she makes this really powerful statement that says all flourishing is mutual, so you know as we do better, everybody does better. And as we serve better, we're not only serving better, we're also being served. I like to say that also, that a really good business is based on reciprocity. It's based on both Thanksgiving. I've been thinking a lot about that now, right? Because we're in
Mm.
that period of Thanksgiving. But thanks is receiving and giving is giving. It's that circle. And business works really beautifully when we're in that place of gratitude and Thanksgiving and reciprocity, where we're we're giving out something of incredible service and value to the world and receiving back from it. We're receiving financial support and emotional support, that we're doing good work for the world. That maybe is the key to successful business, I think, right there.
Yeah. Good. I will bring it with me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We haven't really talked about the business of business either, and it is important. It took me years and years to learn because I wasn't really coming at business from a business place, but you have to have some idea of those business things like budgeting, and if a person isn't good at that, it's good. That's one good place to invest, to hire a really good person that you relate to, who also relates to the way that you want to do business.
Mm.
That it's not all about numbers. You just want to have the numbers done enough so that when you sit down at night, you don't have to worry about if you're going to bounce checks or not. So that is an aspect of the business that's important. But our whole conversation has been that it's not the most important thing. The most important thing is stirring the cauldron with intention, that with that heartfulness, that creativity, that service, that I'm creating something beautiful for the world and I will be rewarded back because I'm giving out. I think that I think when we come to our herbal businesses from that place, we will find success.
Mm. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so too. And on an end of the last words, then I'm like now again thinking of the herbs that you started off with, Damiana,
Oh,
rose, and blue lotus. And
yes.
I think they have like guided us through this conversation.
And maybe a little reishi thrown in there too, right?
Yes, the reishi
It
also.
might have been reishi that made me say that last statement, because reishi, it's the grounding, it's the fungi, yeah, it's kind of the basis of all things. And it's also the herb of immortality, which is so incredible. Yeah, that's why you
True.
look so immortal. But because it's reminding us also that we can have these liminal dreams, we can have these visions, but we also have to ground them too, right? So
Mhm.
it's both. Yeah, that might make an interesting tea. A Damiana, rose, a little reishi, and a little butterfly pea. I'll have to try that
True.
one. It might need something to enhance it, but it has promise.
Yeah,
Yeah.
excellent recipe.
Thank you,
Okay,
my dear.
Rosemary, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, all my
It's
love to
always
you.
it's always such a pleasure to talk to you, and please give all my Swedish friends my love. I'm so grateful for my time spent with you all.
Mm,
It was
true.
nourishing and filled me up, filled
Yeah,
my culture up.
yeah. And they are all sending their love to you as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay.
I was
And thank you to all our listeners and have a great day.